Hi guys, my name's Chris. This is my buddy Hal. In this video, we're gonna talk about the great work that is doing for the disabled community. How did this program start?
Well, Chris, super honored to be on your show and love what you're doing to raise awareness for the disabled and paralysis community alike, and obviously somebody like you, as far as I'm concerned, is such a noble ambassador for this community. So this is a really cool conversation for me to be having, but much like you, I think I was at your age, in my senior year of high school, where really there was these opportunities that were coming about in my life that were purposeful in terms of the direction that they were pointing me and sending me. And right after I graduated high school at the age of 17, much like you, kind of being at that age right now, life had different plans for me than what I thought was in store for my future life. I was injured in an auto accident right after I had graduated high school from Claremont High School in 2007. And the accident really redirected my life and course corrected my life as opposed to set back my life. And it's taken me about 17 years to really understand how much abundance it's brought to my life. But ultimately what it did is it opened my eyes, not only to a second chance at life, multiple chances at continued breath, but it allowed me to look around to identify really the needs that were very prevalent in our local communities. Yeah. And it was very obvious to me that one specific need was chronic care rehabilitation. So many individuals like myself, like yourself, that are living chronically with either injuries or diagnosis that were either onset at time of birth or at a particular point in their life, where they really had nowhere to turn, nowhere to go, no community, no network. And I thought of what would it be like to build a place like the Perfect Step, a paralysis recovery center, where people can not only come and physically recover, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually recover and find community, find a network, find a family, find support. And I think we built it with the mentality that they would come, and they definitely have come.
Yeah, and thank you for doing this, because you're not just helping me, you're helping other people around you, and that's what I really admire about you.
Well, thank you, Chris. Yeah, I think what Chris is more or less alluding to, Chris is actually a client in our program here at the Perfect Step. So Chris, living with the diagnosis of cerebral palsy at time of birth, Chris has really had an uphill battle his entire life with really trying to get to a physical state that makes him not only able, but feels like he has the ability to live freely and independently. And here at the Perfect Step, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve people like Chris in our program to physically recover. Mind you, I met this kid when he was just a little guy, like back pre-10 years old. Yeah. It's been for the better half of a decade, and now seeing him mature, get into your 17, 18 age, about to go off to college. Trust me when I say it hasn't just been an opportunity to serve people like you. You have made me the benefactor of not only what we do here at the Perfect Step, to serve the paralysis community and to find joy and purpose in that, but most importantly, my relationship with you. I have a person that's more than half my age that I really look up to and that I try to emulate as my example.
Thank you.
I mean that.
Thank you. And like, when I first met you were like very welcoming. Like, I was 9 years old at the time, and you really paved that path for me. I want to be more like you and be more involved here, and thank you so much for allowing me to come here and live my life.
Well, Chris, I think you've been really somebody that is the upteened example to me of what it means to be a steward of, not just service of others, but making decisions on behalf of others and doing things not just the right way, but doing the right things. You know, thinking back to when you were just kind of a young preteen kid, there was always something really special about you. And beyond just your presence of somebody that lives with cerebral palsy, that I think anybody that is unaware of your situation maybe jumps to assumptions. But I know for me, I kind of led with curiosity, not to question you, but to understand you. And I really hope that that is the mantra that a lot of people lead with you, because you've been such a model for what I think is missing in this world, that a lot of people run to judgment, and they should be seeking understanding rather than seeking questioning in somebody. And you kind of live that very mantra by trying to live in a fashion that promotes diversity, equity, and inclusion through these types of efforts to really resemble and personify what accessibility is, and to bring that type of perspective to the broad scape of kind of our local communities. And Chris, I'll tell you what, man, seeing you grow up and go from a kid to an adult, trust me when I say, you know, whether it's environment versus heredity, your parents have done an unbelievable job raising you, but I know it comes at the expense every day of making choices for yourself and on your own, and you have always amazed me with the choices you have chosen to make amid your circumstance, knowing that life is very hard, but you wake up, you see the good in life, you see the good in people. As far as I'm concerned, you see the value and worth in yourself, and that really radiates onto others, myself included. Trust me when I say you're not just a little buddy to me. I don't see myself as just a father figure to you or a mentor to you. Before anything else, I see you as a friend and somebody that, as far as I'm concerned, I really want to be like myself.
Thank you. And like you said, I want people to ask me questions. I want people to understand, because I see the little kids and ask me anything you want, and like I wanna spread that kind of awareness. That's my purpose.
Well, what a way to live and a way to be. I mean, in a world that is so full of judgment, Chris, I think you're setting an example of how all of us should not only act, but how we should be in terms of a pursuit of an invitation of other people in our life. And you kind of grew up, you know, kind of living this very systemic challenge of, if we're just being honest, approaching somebody like yourself as an outsider. And I say yourself not to individualize you, but just to make it specific to your story. And I can relate too. People become very challenged with trying to find the words to speak to somebody like you, to address somebody like you. And so their challenge that they face is not wanting to hurt or offend, or maybe they've taken on the mantra, if I don't have nice things to say, maybe I shouldn't say anything at all. But I do know this, you're kind of welcoming this invitation to also set the example to others that those people's default settings becomes not to talk to you at all and not to approach you at all. And for somebody like yourself, for me in my younger age, it really becomes this deafening silence where we feel written off, we don't feel seen, we don't feel heard, we don't feel valued. And I know you have enough self-confidence to know that you are valued, you are loved, you are seen, you are heard. But for those young individuals that you talk about that maybe don't get that interaction, that socialization, that communication, you are pursuing them, communicating with them, talking to them, asking them questions, inviting them into conversation, and also requisitely back to you. And I think that is ultimately setting a standard in this world where when we ask the right questions, I think it also validates a very simple remark that we're also a lot more closely alike than we are different. And yes, you and I have different physical challenges than somebody like Seth or your mom and dad or my parents, but that doesn't mean that their challenges that they face are more difficult or are less difficult. They're just different, right? But I think the most difficult challenge is to feel like we don't have acceptance. So the fact that you are creating an environment of that, welcoming that, and also doing that for others, hats off to you, man. You are answering a call in this world that's needed to be called for a long time or answered for a long time.
And thank you for saying that, because this is why I created this platform, not only for myself, but for other people, like.
And what do you hope that other people get out of this, Chris? Like when you sit here and we have conversations, you talk with other people, of course you want them to learn about these people that are guests on your show, but
Yeah.
what do you want it ultimately to evoke in a response from them, or a call to action, or a call to awareness?
I say, like, if you just talk to a human being like a normal person, I think it can go a long way.
So what would you tell our viewers if I were to then challenge you to give the listeners and the viewers even more of a blueprint of how they can enact on something you just said? What does normal communication look like to you? Like if we were to talk to Seth, who's behind the camera, normally, what does that look like? Like how could they do that with people like you and I to make us feel normal, or to normalize this type of conversing?
Yeah. You can just be like, hey, how you doing? Like, what's your name? Like, just asking simple questions. What I'm asking for you guys is just open the door for people. Just welcome them like open arms.
Well, Chris, this is like a really interesting topic, and it hits home for me in particular, this normalization around like support and acceptance of the disabled community. And I think you and I really have a challenge too, to be stewards of also addressing this challenge and knowing we have our own part in this. You know, you brought up a good point of how somebody figuratively opens the door to invite somebody into conversation. You and I also have to be pursuing that with people too. If ultimately we want to use kind of the statement that we're no different, we just live life in a chair, and we are quote unquote normal too, then we've got to also facilitate these conversations ourselves. It can't just be expectant that somebody like Seth or your parents or my parents or your friends are always in pursuit of you. Like we've got to do our due diligence to also pursue them, to also open the door for them and invite them in. And you know, I think to what you're saying, this really resonates with me because acceptance really comes in a lot of different forms, and it can be achieved in a lot of different ways. You know, kind of personified and rectified what that looks like through support and support through conversation. To me, I've found some really effective things that both in how I treat others and how others treat me, when I look them in the eye, when I talk to them, when I address them by name, to really personalize or specify the conversation, not generalize, really makes it more interpersonal, and getting to really deep-rooted conversations that typically a lot of people might stay away from with you and I, to really talk about life and not just talk about the weather outside. I think these things are really important to get to more deep-rooted conversation that allows for kind of this expansion of a whole nother world of not just a dialect, but like a connection and relationship to somebody. So I think there's some simple tactics there that people can really utilize to best reach you and I, and likewise we can do the same with them. And that will immediately create this embracement of acceptance that you're talking about, where we feel supported, we feel valued, we feel heard, we feel loved. I mean, these are the key things in life that everybody in life is seeking, really two things. There's this self-fulfilling prophecy to feel loved and to feel accepted. Like we're trying to find that in many different forms, through our parents, through loved ones, through friends, through family. We want to seek and find love and sustain love. And we want to feel accepted as we are. And likewise, and it's an example to you and I, that we also have to accept and love other people as they are. And you and I have a job, because we tend to be people pleasers. We tend to also be people that live in a particular spotlight where all eyes are on us at a lot of times. And rather than seek love from others, we need to seek respect first. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of people run to seeking love. Actually, the old version of me used to do this. I'm a people pleaser by nature. So I figured that the best way for me to win people over would just be to do the thing that I know would create a positive remark from them, or a positive response from them, or a positive action from them. And if I did that, they would love me because I'd feel like, oh, I'm always the hero. Or in my case, I'm the Disneyland dad, because, I'm a new dad. Like if I always provided that to my daughter, she would love me. I've found that the most effective way to reach people and find acceptance from people is to seek respect. Sometimes that means having hard conversations, creating boundaries, going a layer deeper to talk about something a little deeper. And those people tend to love me because they respect me for who I am and as I am, before just me being a people pleaser. So seeking respect before love is a really huge mantra in my life, and I'm sure it is yours too.
And that's why I love you. And,
Love you too.
Cause I can literally talk to you about anything that I'm feeling, and I hope you feel the same.
Oh, I definitely do, and I think if I, kind of recount our relationship development, you've taught me something because, mind you, when I met you, you were a young kid, and I know that you get this. How many times do people kind of talk to you as if you're kind of like a baby, like they change their voice tone, they talk to you in a way where they almost diminish your ability to have a cognitive state that is aware and that can respond and that can create inflections. And that's got to frustrate you. And I think for me, you've reminded me, just talk to you like you're a dude. Like you're one of my buddies. And I think that's kind of where we've gotten to through conversation and through life experiences. I mean, we've been to concerts together. We've sang together. I mean, I do the most normal of normal lifestyle things with you than I even do guys that are my age that are 35 years old. So, I mean, that's where I get back to the nature that you're just as much of a friend than you are a little buddy or a little brother to me. And I mean, like you said, just talk to me like I'm a dude, like I'm one of the guys, right?
I was really scared about doing football. He pushed me. How thank you so much for pushing me to do football. Because it really made my life easier.
Chris, I'm so blessed that you bring that up, not to feel the joy when I hear a thank you from you, but because I know that you just went and did it. And I remember back to your freshman year where we were having those conversations of the harsh reality for you of you weren't able to be one of the guys out on the field, strapping up the pads and, going out and making a tackle or running the ball or catching the ball, but you knew you wanted to be a part of a team, that team in particular, the football team at Claremont High School. And you are just as much of a player as you were a coach. And I think to me that's where the real value in you is. It's the whole reason why for 4 years I diligently followed, supported, and went out to games at Claremont High School was to see you in action because you were just as valuable as any guy on the field through your inflection points, through your presence, through your oversight, through your coaching. And you were just as important as the guy scoring the touchdown. And I think if all the players are being honest, they feel like every time they scored a touchdown, there was a piece of you in the end zone with them.
Yeah, it was. And it was really cool. Shout out to Coach Hal and Coach Karen.
Coach Hal, Coach Karen, those are guys right there. I love those guys.
Yeah, it really opened my eyes to feel like this is where I belong, and this is where I always want to be.
Well, I think it would be really cool at some point, I'm sure you've thought of this, to have Coach Hal and Coach Karen on the show, because you sit here and you talk about some of your key initiatives of bringing awareness and creating this world of love and acceptance. And those are the two men in your life, outside of obviously your own parents and other people that dearly love you, that really forged that path for you. Like you pursued them to seek an opportunity to be a player coach, and they said game on. And I think that is such an amazing culture to build. Particularly at Claremont, where I'm not surprised that that's kind of a universal culture there between Coach Hal and Coach Karen. But they treated you like you were anybody else, and I think that's how you want to be viewed. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so just two men that I love dearly for their just I don't think they did it for charity, and I don't think you felt that you wanted to be seen as a charity case. You wanted to be seen as the same risk that a coach would take on their best player to have on the team and to invest time into and to game plan for. I mean, that you had a very prominent role just as much as anybody else on the team. So hats off to those guys for sure. I hope to see them on the show sometime.
Yeah, for sure. And like Coach Hal, he would ask me all the time, hey, what can I do better? I say, Coach, what do they need to work on? Same with our Coach Karen. Like Coach Karen would call me up when he's talking to the team at the end of the game. He said, Chris, you got anything for the team? I would say what could make them be better football players. So
I love that is a part of your story and that's your experience. And I really hope and wish that as you're raising awareness and advocacy around the disability community, that becomes shared experiences amongst those people too, to live in such an inclusive environment where coaches have so much humility to ask for feedback of what they could do better, and more importantly, they give you a voice. Because I know that we've talked of really kind of where the pitfalls and shortcomings are in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what acceptance and embracement and support looks like in this world. And sometimes for you and I, it's feeling like we don't have a voice, or both literally and figuratively, like our voice, obviously for you and I, can't project as loud, but how are we seeking and been given the opportunity to have the platform to speak eloquently, to provide feedback, to provide support, to provide inflection, to provide any of those things. And I think when you and I feel like we can have a voice and have impact on others, that creates so much divine purpose in our stories and how we live. And for somebody like yourself, obviously that's been rectified with what you've done with that type of purpose, to know that your purpose even extends beyond a football field now. It extends even beyond a YouTube platform. It extends into this facility at the Perfect Step. It extends into the personal lives of every person that you touch. I mean, I went to your birthday party just a couple weeks ago, and I saw people showing up not out of pity, but because they're your friends. Like, forget wanting to be a part of your recovery story. They want to be a part of your life. So I know your voice is heard. It's loud, it's transparent, it's clear, it's effective. And obviously it's making a really great impact, and even beyond Coach Hal and Coach Karen.
Yeah, thank you. What are you most proud of that you accomplished in your life?
Well, nothing of real contextual value of meaning is done alone. And I don't mean to be cliche, but, I'll give you an analogy. The singer-songwriter, they might make a multi-platinum album or song, but who else is to thank for that? The producer, the people that gave them vocal coaching, the pencil, who created the pencil that gave them the opportunity to put pen to paper to write a song. And so I think about my story and the things I'm most proud of that I've had the opportunity to accomplish and be a part of. And the things that have most contextual value to me have never been done alone. They've been done with people. The Perfect Step, for example, we're sitting in this facility. I've had the ability to have a front row seat to see it grow over the years from something that was just an idea into something that is changing lives. And I know that people can look at me as a focal point in that story to say, wow, Hal, none of this would be here without you. And I could easily look around and say, yeah, but I wouldn't be here without them. So I would say my most pride and joy that I feel really has to be every morning when I come into this facility and I look around. We have an opportunity to serve people in the paralysis community very abundantly through physical-based practices to get them to physically heal. We have the opportunities to create mental, emotional, and spiritual recovery in those people's lives as they find community, network, friends. Our staff becomes their friends or the family they got to choose. So what a blessing it is to be a part of a broader story that is bigger than just my own. And so I can really lean into the idea that just like you, my greatest joy in life and my greatest role is to be a part of a team. I'm a part of a small team at home with my wife and my daughter. I'm a part of a bigger team here, just like you wanted to be on a football field. Those are where I find most joy because it's where I find value, purpose, and worth. And that's where you and I want to be validated like anybody. We want to find value, purpose, and worth while we're being loved and accepted. And I really feel that here at The Perfect Step. I know I have a part in this team. I know my role matters to keep the lights on and to keep people coming in here getting world-class service. So none of that's done by myself. It's done with many people. And in fact, you're a huge part of that story too. So I can hang my hat on that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, when I first came in here, you guys were like any other paralysis center, because sometimes I didn't want to leave. Because every conversation that I had with any of the people that you hired, is really valuable.
Hey, well, hopefully you know your part in that story too, because honestly, I think our part was easy. You chose us. Your part was hard because you had to look around and ask yourself what was going to be the best situation for you. Trust me when I say it's been much more of a privilege for us to serve you than it has been, hopefully, for you to feel like you need to serve us. We get so much pride and joy out of you being in the building and you being more than just a client. You get to be a friend to us. But we do take it with optimal seriousness to know that you're paying a premium to be here to get these services. But I promise you, we're the benefactors in our relationship. And my team is so blessed. We talk about you so much of just those early moments of just how you have rechanged our perspective. Not just out of just pity to think like, oh, what if we were diagnosed at birth like Chris? How would we have handled this? All I know is this, is we've learned a heck of a lot from you. You've taught us a lot about what the abdominal spirit is in a human being, to just be somebody of value regardless of what your physical circumstance is. And you've really elevated us to a different level of customer service to know that there's no transaction involved in this. There's a really deep-rooted relationship and friendship. And to me, that's what sends my staff home feeling like $1 million, because they've not only made a difference, but they've made a friend.
So I always wanted to ask you this, but you're my inspiration. So I wanted to ask you, who's yours?
Not to be cliche, my man, but anybody that tells you that you can't find wisdom or perspective in somebody that's younger than you is crazy. And trust me when I say I look at a 17-year-old kid in yourself, and I see myself 17 years ago. And I think to myself, that was really when my life started to change, and I had to start taking accountability and making choices to know that as much of this circumstance was out of my control, everything on a move forward basis was my control, to make decisions to make my life better and not worse. And I look at you at the same age right now doing this, what you're doing, to make a difference in this world. You're exactly who I would want to be and who I want to be right now. And so you asked me who my inspiration is. I think, inspiration comes in many different forms. I have a lot of motivation from a lot of people in my life, my wife, my kids, plural with one on the way, but my daughter at home, my family, this team here, so many other clients. But when you boil that motivation down from motivation to inspiration and from pain to purpose, you're at the focal point of my story. And it's not out of pity. It's out of just pure respect of a life that anybody that could have been through what you went through just let it go to waste and just said, this is my life. I'm going to self-loathe and pity. I'm going to understand that I'm different. But you've used this not to your advantage, but you've embraced it to be a part of your story. So much so that now you have other people like myself that want to be just like you. So I hope you don't see yourself as different in a bad way, where you think, who would want to be me? Why wouldn't anybody want to have your spirit?
Yeah. And I don't look at myself that way. I look at myself is how can I make myself and my community better? How can I make someone's day better? How can I assist you on the opportunities that you want to have? How can I motivate you and drive you on the things you want to have in life?
Well, Chris, I think that's what makes you, your story, and this initiative so beautiful. There's nothing self-serving about you in this. It is strictly to make an impact on others and to change lives, and that's a lost art in this world. A lot of people, they start on an endeavor with a conversation with somebody or with themselves of what's in it for me. That's not you, and I think that's why everything you touch leads to gold, is because it's always done with the right intention. You do the right things the right way, and look at the outcomes you've created.
Yeah.
You've made a difference at Claremont High School. You've made ambassadorship be a focal point to the chronic disability community by going up to Sacramento and talking to our state legislators, the advocacy work you and your mom do, and what your family embraces as social norms of what it means to live with a disability and how to thrive through that. And there's no self-pity involved. It's just, this is just your circumstance and it's a part of your story. Why not make the best of it? And tell you what, not only are you making the best of it, you're making the best of life.
Thank you. So I really hope you guys understand where we're both coming from. This guy has really inspired me, and I know I keep saying this, but you really have. You made me a better human being. You drive me to make myself better. You give me advice. I really look at myself and say, he's right, because you're that special human being that I wish that everyone gets to know, and that you make an impact on others people's lives, and that you really understand how much value you bring to this community.
Thank you, Chris. And honored and privileged to be on the show today. I'm never at a loss for words, and it won't be indicative of how I continue to speak right now in closing, but I hope those that are listening, at least up until this point during kind of a lengthy conversation, our apologies, is really hope that you listen to this guy. 17, 18 years young, but many years beyond this, so wise. Wise beyond your years, Chris. Somebody that has a bigger heart than people that are twice your age. Somebody that has perspective of somebody that might have lived a fully abundant life, and that's on their deathbed, that's reflecting on their life. You've understood and you've embraced those challenges and garnered that perspective without having to lose something beyond what you've already lost. And I know that this is your normal, this is your life, to live with CP, and it's not a life that many people would wish for, but you've taken what few would wish for, and you've made it a life full of abundance and full of impact. You've certainly impacted mine, so with love, buddy, I love you. And I've really loved this opportunity to be on the show, so thanks.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Hal.
See you guys later. Bye.